Now, light. So now we have to address light. We've addressed the void, we've addressed the waters, and now what is this light? Is it the light we see, or is it some other kind of light that's more fundamental than the light we see? These are two images. These are created by COBE, which is the Cosmic Background Explorer, and WMAP, Wilkinson Microwave Anisotropy Probe, however you say that. But basically there's two satellites that look out into space to find this cosmic microwave background. Bernard Hayes says in his article, Brilliant Skies, Light, Matter, and a Zero-Point Field, says that God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. It is certainly a beautiful poetic statement, but does it contain any science? A few years ago, I would have dismissed that possibility. As an astrophysicist, I knew all too well the blatant contradictions between the sequence of events in Genesis and the physics of the universe. Even after substituting eons or days, the order of events was obviously wrong, according to science. It made no sense to have light come first and then to claim that the sun and moon and the stars, the obvious sources of light in the night sky of the ancient world, were created only subsequently. One could, of course, generalize light to mean simply energy, and thus claim a reference to the Big Bang, but that would, to me, be more of a stretch than a revelation. But indeed, as I discovered when I began to write up a research paper based on what Ruta Sunsengarchi, he had indeed derived Newton's fundamental equation of motion, and the concept underlying this analysis was the existence of a background sea of light known as the electromagnetic zero-point field of the quantum vacuum. There is a rule in quantum physics called the Heisenberg uncertainty rule. The principle states, let me get caught up here. The principle states, with certainty as it happens, that no quantum object, such as a microscopic pendulum, can ever be brought completely to rest. Any microscopic object will always possess a residual random jiggle thanks to quantum fluctuations. Radio, television, and cellular phones are all operate by transmitting or receiving electromagnetic waves. Visible light is the same thing. It is just a higher frequency form of electromagnetic waves. At even higher frequencies beyond the visible spectrum, you find ultraviolet light, X-rays, and gamma rays. All are electromagnetic waves, which are really just different frequencies of light. It is standard in quantum theory to apply the Heisenberg uncertainty principle to electromagnetic waves, since electric and magnetic fields flowing through space oscillate like a pendulum. At every possible frequency, there will always be a tiny bit of electromagnetic jiggling going on. And if you add up all these ceaseless fluctuations, what you get, as a result, is a background sea of light whose total energy is enormous, the zero-point field. The zero point refers to the fact that even though this energy is huge, it is the lowest possible energy state. All other energy is over and above the zero-point state. So in the beginning, in Genesis chapter 1, there was created a background sea of light from which everything else would be created above and beyond, above this background sea of light. The fact that the zero-point field is the lowest energy state makes it unobservable. We see things by way of contrast. The eye works by letting light fall on the otherwise dark retina. But if the eye was filled with light, there would be no darkness to afford a contrast. The zero-point field is such a blinding light. Since it is everywhere, inside and outside of us, permeating every atom in our bodies, we are effectively blind to it. It blinds us to its presence. The world of light that we do see is all the rest of the light that is over above the zero-point field. If we are right, then "let there be light" is indeed a very profound statement, as one might expect of its purported author. The solid, stable world of matter appears to be sustained at every instant by an underlying sea of quantum light. The laws of relativity are clear on this point. If you could ride a beam of light as an observer, all of space would shrink to a point, and all of time would collapse to an instant. In the reference frame of light, there is no space and time. And this, There must be a deeper meaning in these facts, a deeper truth about the simultaneous interconnection of all things. It beckons us forward in our search for a better, true understanding of the nature of the universe, of the origins of space and time. What are these experiments trying to tell us? That every star in the universe is created from sound. It begins through the experiment, and we can reproduce this experiment in laboratories all over the world. Any university, any high school can reproduce these experiments of sufficiently concentrating light enough to produce stars. That we have reproduced in a laboratory a crude example of one act of creation. Furthermore, the experiments of a man named Kirill Chuganov can reproduce similar suns using microwaves and tap them for energy. Lightning is another example of sun dynamics. In lightning strikes, a sort of invisible path is created that the strike will follow, called a step leader, which is why you sometimes see a lightning flash flicker. It follows the energy, and photons, excited photons, follow this step leader as it goes through. But you can't see the step leader. You can read more about that in my book. So, do we see any of these step leaders or invisible dark phases of pre-sun construction or post-sun construction in outer space? Absolutely we do. We call them black holes. They're hypothesized to be black holes, but they are a space purported to be where a sun has died and it creates a black hole. Goes supernova, condenses to gravity, and creates a black hole. But really, what it is a step leader, either pre-sun or post-sun. But they themselves are artifacts of creation also. Black holes are not artifacts of Big Bang, they're artifacts of creation. And likewise, fill another prediction in my theory. There is more about that in my book also, but black holes are an artifact of creation by simple sonoluminescence. The plasma this experiment, sonoluminescence, produces is absolutely just like any star, an elementary particle in the universe. Actually, the temperatures in sonoluminescent experiments from sound is actually hotter in some cases than the sun itself. Right, the COBE mission was to provide measurements and help shape our understanding of the universe. Accordingly, it cemented all of the preconceived notions of Big Bang theorists. But without prejudice and manipulating evidence to fit our beliefs in current paradigm, what does COBE really tell us? That there exists this background sea of light coming from every direction, and that without COBE's instruments, we're blind to it. Now, the cosmic microwave background does not in any way become evidence for the Big Bang just because they saw it first and spent billions of dollars to tell them what they wanted to know. Standing on its own data, what is it really telling us? It's absolutely an artifact left over from creation and has been there since the beginning. And we are only just now able to detect it. We know from sonoluminescence that stars produced by sound create visible light. But does that mean that there is some kind of invisible sea of light that we have been blind to all these years? And obviously that is true. What if we were inside the bubble, looking out, just like we theorized just like Subir Sarkar theorized a minute ago? What if we were inside the bubble and it was a plasma core, plasma outside, and we were looking out through it? What would we see? We would see exactly what COBE has described. We would see a background sea of light that is invisible to our naked eye, but is absolutely out there. Perhaps what atheists call the unobservable God is a little bit like the cosmic microwave background, existing as a background sea of energy, which we have somehow become effectively blind to. Further, because of this background state of being, there is no space and time, then the question of whether God exists or not, or who created him, becomes a moot point. Seeing is beyond our frame of reference. Light and matter unite. Lena Howe. These are some more experiments to prove the point. Lena Howe has already shaken scientists' beliefs about the nature of things. Albert Einstein and just about every other physicist insisted that light travels at a constant rate of 186,000 miles a second in free space, and that it can be speeded up or slowed down, and that it can't, be speeded up or slowed down. But in 1998, Howe, for the first time in history, slowed light to 38 miles an hour, about the speed of rush hour traffic. 2 years later, she brought light to a complete halt in a cloud of ultra-cold, atoms. Next, she restarted the stalled light without changing any of its characteristics and sent it on the way. So, light traveling through space can be stopped, slowed down, sped up, and changed directions, depending on the medium that's being sent through.